Hello, this is Frank Neely from HeartlandDiaryUSA.com, bringing you news every conservative can use. Subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay up to date. Tonight, Tucker Carlson looked once again at the violence from Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and the radical left in general. There's some graphic scenes. I could not believe it to see what they were doing to some innocent people who happen to drive on the wrong street. You're going to be upset by seeing this, but we have to put it to use and elect Donald Trump president in 2020.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. It is amazing how quickly a civilization can tumble backwards. It takes a long time to build something worth having, but just a moment to destroy it. That's the most famous lesson of ancient Rome, whose fall was followed by 1,000 years of darkness. But as it turns out, that can happen anywhere. Just 3 months ago, this was a different country. Whatever its problems, America in the spring of 2020 was making good on its most basic principle. All men are created equal in the eyes of God and under the laws of the United States. Millions of immigrants from around the world believed that was true. That's why they came here. This country offered opportunity and safety to everyone, regardless of what they looked like. We were proud of that. We were right to be proud. Then, over Memorial Day, a man died in police custody in Minneapolis. Our leaders responded to his death in an unexpected way. They decided that America itself was a lie. They decided this was not a country founded on the promise of equality. Instead, they told us that America was a 250-year-old exercise in oppression and cruelty. The American experiment never should have been conducted. So in ways big and small, they began working feverishly to undo the country. It didn't take long. Just 12 weeks later, here are the results. This is video shot late last night in Portland, Oregon, during a BLM rally at the city jail and police precinct. A mob surrounded a man and woman in their truck. They beat the woman to the ground. The couple fled for their lives. The mob chased them until they crashed into a building. Watch. He crashed into the building. The mob loves it. They're rejoicing. Then they set upon the man. They drag him out of his truck and force him to sit on the ground like a hostage. The man doesn't fight back. He doesn't resist in any way. Watch what happens next.
Back up, back up, bro. Sit down, sit down. Sit the down. Sit the down. Hey, bro, you're not leaving, bro. You're not going nowhere. Put your down. Sit your down. Hey, chill. You talking about?
It's hard to watch. They nearly killed him. They beat him unconscious. We just learned the man is still in the hospital tonight. The monster who kicked him in the head as he sat there defenseless, the cretin wearing the jacket that says security on it, has not been arrested. Many on the internet seem to know exactly who he is, but as of tonight, no arrests at all. That's what Portland, Oregon is like right now. A major American city has fallen to the mob. We've got much more video from Portland. Some of it we're not going to show you. It's too awful. The rest of the media are ignoring all of this. These are Joe Biden's voters screaming slurs as they kick people in the head. This is the media's team. They don't want you to know what nonviolent protests actually look like. When BLM lunatics call for the murder of police, and they do, the other networks act like it never happened. Here's yet another clip CNN will not be playing tonight.
Your mother's umbilical cord should have wrapped around your neck and choked you just the way you choked George Floyd, you filthy animal. I know you got a gun, but so do I. Go ahead and shoot me. I'm shooting back. Am I lying, my comrade? You shoot me, I'm going to shoot you back. You need to be charged with murder. They need to hang you high, not hang you low. They need to send you to the electric chair and let you fry like a piece of burnt bacon.
Fry like like a piece of burned bacon, calling for the killing, for the murder of other Americans. For months, elected Democrats have tacitly endorsed this, the violence in our streets. They inspired it. They watched it happen. They refused to condemn it. Jerry Nadler just pretended he had no idea what you were talking about when you asked. But this weekend, they dropped the pose. The blurry line between violent mob and Democratic office holders disappeared completely. Here is John Thompson. He's a Democratic State House candidate in the state of Minnesota. Thompson, and we want to be clear about this, is not some fringe candidate. Thompson has won the endorsement of the governor of the state, Tim Walz, its Attorney General Keith Ellison, as well as of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. But John Thompson isn't simply a Democratic candidate, he's also a violent thug. Here's Thompson the other day threatening a family, women and children, at their home.
I'm a black man being terrorized by this Klansman right here. We are terrorized by the Grand Wizard. Y'all got the Grand Wizard living in your goddamn neighborhood. All the Klan exists in Hugo, Minnesota, and it's right here. Don't run now. Don't run now, racist white people. I'm here. Oh yeah, we pull up. We pull the out. And if people in Hugo don't support black people, Hugo, Minnesota.
A normal political party would expel someone like that immediately. He's a lunatic, screaming at women on their front lawn, obscenities, threats. A normal country would arrest him. But Democrats allowed Thompson to write a cynical non-apology for what you just saw, in which he concedes that his threats of violence against young women were, quote, not helpful. Why was Thompson allowed to do that? He was allowed to do that because Democratic leaders agree with what he said. Here's Kamala Harris explaining that people like Thompson are the good guys, and everyone else, you, is a bigot and deserve what you get.
You have one ticket that can say the phrase Black Lives Matter, and another who has been full-time sowing hate and division in our country.
Oh, so what do you do with people who've been spending full time endorsing hate and division? You know. But in case that endorsement of violence in the streets was too subtle for you, here's Massachusetts Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley openly calling for political terrorism. Keep in mind, she said this on Saturday, this Saturday.
Hold them accountable.
Well,
Make the phone call, send the email, show up. You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives. And unfortunately, there's plenty to go around.
There needs to be unrest in the streets, Congresswoman Pressley said. Well, her wish came true. A day later, a man was beaten nearly to death in Portland, apparently for the way he looked. Pressley supports this explicitly today. Today, after that happened, that video has been on the internet all day. Pressley spoke at a virtual event at the Democratic National Convention and praised cities like Portland for, quote, rising up. We showed you what rising up looks like. It's innocent people kicked in the face until they're almost dead. Ayanna Pressley isn't pretending anymore. None of them are. Here's what rising up looked like in Seattle last week.
Give up your house, give black people back their homes. Thank you. You're sitting there comfortably as if they help gentrify this neighborhood.
I used to live in this neighborhood.
But he used to live in this neighborhood. I can live here and my family was pushed out. And you're sitting up there having a good time with your other white friends.
That's all. Let's not act like you just are oblivious to as you knew about it all along, and you were okay with it. But guess what? We're not, and we're bringing it to your door. So the you plan to do about it?
Why in the windows calling the cops?
I don't care.
We don't like the way you look, give us your house. There's no excuse for this, there's no rationale that justifies this, and there's no society that can endure if this continues. That just happened. So where's the so-called Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice? Do they think this is okay? Would it be okay if the colors were reversed? Oh, no, it wouldn't be? Then it's not okay in this case, because equality is a universal principle. It cannot be selectively defended or it means nothing, which is to say, it means nothing. Our leaders no longer care about equality. As of tonight, some Americans aren't even allowed to drive on city streets, the streets they pay for. Take a look at this video from New York City.
Hold the back now. Hold the back now. What the did I just say? Hold the back, bro. Hold the back. Yo, I won't dead ass smash your car, bro. Ask me if I give a. Ask me if I give a.
So, to pass the roadblock on a city street, first you have to swear allegiance to their specific political faction, and if you don't, they threaten to hurt you. But keep in mind, this is not Beirut. No, really, we promise. This is New York City, and everything's fine. It's fine. Stop complaining. Where's the federal government? Don't they have a constitutional obligation to ensure that your civil rights aren't violated for the way that you look? Yes, they do. That is their obligation. It's what they promised they would do. It's what you pay for. But they're terrified too. Nobody wants to be criticized for opposing the mob. So they close their eyes and they hope it goes away. But it won't go away. Meanwhile, America tumbles backward. It's also sad.